And good morning, everybody. Afternoon, evening, however you're tuning in. Welcome. This is LoreForged, and this is the podcast for Ashes of Creation. We are your hosts. I am Jibs, and I'm joined by Sonny.
I don't have any witty thing to say other than I'm just happy to be doing this show with you guys.
Just happy to be here.
I feel like this is a positive experience, and I'm going to bring the heat tonight.
You're bringing the heat.
Bringing the heat, like Randy Johnson about to detonate a bird.
I still watch that video because it's so
It's the greatest video of all time. It is the single greatest sports clip in the history of sports. Randy Johnson, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we should introduce Cash, and then I'll tell this story.
Oh, yes. And then also on the docket, our close friend, Cash is here.
I really love how you consider my feelings. Like, that makes me feel super warm and fuzzy about it. And I might disagree with you on the greatest moment in sports history or stack of greatest moments in sports history, but I'll let you go first. Okay. You know sports way better than I do, so
you're going to have to come up with something good, because this is probably one of my favorite sporting events ever, and it is captured perfectly on video. And you can see this anywhere, so much so that like every now and then they write articles about it. For example, I just looked this up, and USA Today on March 24th, 2022 said it's been like 20 years since Randy Johnson detonated a bird. Randy Johnson was a pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I believe he played for a couple other teams in his history, but he was like 7'8", okay? And he was a pitcher, and he threw so freaking hard, it was crazy. Like people feared Randy Johnson's fastball for the majority of his career. He was well known to be one of the hardest pitchers ever. Well, on this particular day, this was March 24th, 2001, in a spring training game against the San Francisco Giants, in the 7th inning, he throws a fastball, and at that exact moment, a bird flies into the path of the fastball, and it absolutely explodes. This ball could not have hit this bird any more square, and you just see this explosion of feathers, and everyone kind of stops. And they're like, did that really just happen? And it's perfectly captured on video, and it's unbelievable. This year, the reason why I reference this is because I just saw somebody as like the all-time greatest Halloween costume, and it was a guy with a full mullet and an Arizona Diamondbacks jersey on, and then his girlfriend was dressed as a white bird with blood all over her and like feathers coming off, and it was to commemorate this event. I cannot express to you, if you have not seen this video, you have to watch it. It is probably the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in sports.
I love it. I digress. You win on it. But the thing that I was talking about, I guess it's like one of the best stories in sports history, and it has to do with baseball. I absolutely loved watching Jim Abbott pitch. If you don't know who Jim Abbott was, Jim Abbott had one arm, and this guy would throw rockets. He threw a freaking no-hitter against the Cleveland Indians years and years ago when he was playing for the Yankees. And if you just have never seen it, Google Jim Abbott and watch the way that his technique is when he goes into his wind up, he throws this ball, and real quick, he puts on his glove because he only has
on
one
the other
arm.
hand, right? So he
on
throws
the other
it with
hand,
that hand, and then on the hand that he just
on
threw
his stump hand. Yes. It is just absolutely incredible. So
it's
anyway,
crazy. You're right. Jim Abbott is one of the best stories in sports, and it's not like Jim Abbott was out there as some sort of charity thing. That guy was a legit major league pitcher. Just great. That's a good one. I haven't thought of Jim Abbott in a long time, but that is a great, Jim Abbott is a great story.
Did he bat too?
I
think he was in a league that didn't bat.
I think they pinch hit. They wouldn't have pinch hitted him, right? Because he was American League, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know baseball well enough, but one of the leagues doesn't
Yeah.
have their pitcher's bat. So I think he was in that league.
True.
I mean,
There
you can only ask so much of Jim Abbott. You're already a major league pitcher with one hand.
Or me with technical sports questions. So I'm not really a sports guy. But yeah, anyway.
Well, gentlemen, it's good to be back in the hot seat. And just a quick thing before we go any further. Next week is going to be Thanksgiving here in the US of A. To all of you who are not from the USA, don't know what's going on. So we are going to celebrate the holiday, take the week off. And so we'll be having this episode release, and then we'll be having a week off. Coming back, I believe it is the 4th. Yeah, December 4th.
Yeah, but we will still be releasing videos next week.
Yep, that'll still be a thing.
On the YouTubes.
Yep, just won't be a podcast. So anyway, just want to give you a heads up on what is going down. But gentlemen, we got all kinds of fun things to talk about. So tonight on the show, we're bringing back, check out this thing on Reddit. That's an oldie but a goodie. Haven't done that one for a while. And then a roundtable discussion on quite possibly the one thing that makes an MMO great above everything else. You can have every feature in the game. You can make it perfect visually. You can do all the things, but it comes down to community. So we're going to be talking about guilds and alliances and Ashes of Creation, kind of building for the standpoint of building communities. And so, yeah, welcome everybody. But Sonny, what is this thing? I purposely don't check it before the show because I like.
You're not supposed to check it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you guys are banned from doing that.
Oh, okay.
And on that note, that's exactly what we're talking about. So the question on Reddit, I've actually been saving this one for 2 months. This one I found quite a while ago. The person who put it on here is Mr. Michibayo. I hate Reddit names. So I always have to be careful. Like, oh, nope, I said a terrible word by accident. So he writes on here, bannable offenses in Alpha 2. And the quote at the beginning is, I was just sitting here wondering to myself, I wonder if there'll be any bannable offenses in Alpha 2. What are people's thoughts around any sort of punishment during Alpha 2? Of course, they want/need people to grief, exploit, and expose flawed systems during the test so that they can be patched and worked on. Yada, yada, yada. He goes on and he basically says, it's just an interesting thought. As I've seen Steven talk about being pretty harsh with punishments for breaking rules at full release. So I'm going to sort of summarize like kind of what he's getting at here. And the question is this. One, is there going to be anything that you can do in Alpha 2 that you think would actually get you banned? And then on the converse of that, is there anything that you think, you two, Cash and JB, that is worth banning a person once you get to a full release, right? So Alpha 2 is like a testing phase, so we're just going to have to kind of embrace that there might be some things that maybe get a little bit allowed. So that's my two-part question for you. 2 parts. 1, anything you think will be bannable in Alpha 2? And then 2, what's worth banning somebody for in full release in your opinion?
Cash, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I think the easy answer to that is they are going to have a terms of service in place. Like whenever anybody plays an online game where you're playing with other people, everybody has to check that little box that you have read the terms of service. Now, whether or not you actually do read the terms of service is another story. And if anybody out there says that you actually read through all the terms of service, you're full of poop, because I know you don't. And everybody checks the box.
Or you used to be a contract attorney.
There's that as well.
Are you telling me that you read?
Heck yeah. Terms of service, baby.
Do you really?
Sometimes. I won't do the Blizzard ones because they don't change anything. They just keep updating it.
But
How do you know if you don't read it?
I know.
You're a terrible lawyer. No, but I think anything that's against their terms of service, and they're going to have those little intricate things that we might not pick up right now. But if you think about things like, say griefing, for example, it's kind of built into the game. I mean, risk versus reward. You go out and you get camped. it sucks to get camped. We all know that, but they've already said that there's going to be minimal, if not any. People are going to have to sort stuff like that out on their own. I think any exploits right off the bat, they're going to want to gather data on, so they know how to fix those, how to close those holes. But once those holes are closed, if somebody continues to do something that's right along, or tries to continue doing something that's right along the same vein, and it has become part of the TOS, I think those are bannable offenses. So for instance, if there's an exploit to where, say the world doesn't quite come together and you can get from like point A to point B by like sneaking through or glitching through or something like that, and they have said, we know about this, we're working on a fix for this, please do not do that. And they catch you doing it, yeah, outski, you're done. Thanks for reporting it, but we're working on fixing it. Don't break our game. Don't use exploits. So exploits that they already know about, that they're working on a fix, and they've asked you not to exploit, those are bannable offenses.
In the alpha.
In every release.
So you're basically saying no distinction between the alpha bannable offenses and the full release.
Yeah, because I think in both cases they're going to want to know about that. I mean, imagine taking advantage of an exploit, especially in alpha testing, and not reporting it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of think that's a responsibility to do that. So, I think there's a little bit less leeway for taking advantage of an exploit like that you don't report. Am I saying that you should be held to report it? No, I just think that's good etiquette to report something like that, especially in an alpha. But I just think there's going to be a lot less reporting, or a lot less bannable offenses during the alpha for things like griefing or camping, or if it goes against their terms of service where a person's like using racial slurs or they're using like sexual slurs or something like that, that's a different story, because that's going to be against their TOS. So those are bannable offenses.
JB?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with him as well, and I think I'm gonna make one addition to it. I think this is an addition, maybe kind of similar to what you've already said, but when I think of an alpha particularly, it's the whole point is to really test it. I want to test the limits. If there is a duplication bug, I want to know about it. And by that I mean if I experience it, I want to know it's there so I can pass it along. Like, hey, this is happening, for feedback, so it can get fixed. Not so I can keep doing it. That's pointless and stupid. But I think that whenever I want to find those things, I want to find those bugs. Hopefully I don't find, the goal is right. Like everything's running like it should be, but we know it's going to need to be tested, right? So the realistic thing is things are going to happen, and I want to find those things. I want to, whatever that is, so I can report it. But that's the professional side of it. The not so professional side is don't be that guy. So don't do something out of the order, go out of your way to affect other people's gameplay experiences. That to me is,
that's a good one.
That to me is what it is. Like, if that's a bannable offense, when what you're doing is affecting other people's gameplay experience, and it could be monetarily through the economy. It could be maybe something that somebody's doing. What?
Cash is making the most I want to interrupt you so bad face. So just go ahead and do it.
Okay, but is PvPing and killing somebody and then sitting on their corpse during their corpse runs and killing them again, is that not affecting their gameplay?
I mean,
do you want me to answer it for you?
Go ahead.
It's a great point though, because in some games, for example, I've been kicked out. I got kicked out of what is the World War II game we play all the time?
Hell Let Loose.
Hell Let Loose, yeah.
Hell Let Loose. For example, I was a sniper in Hell Let Loose, and as a sniper, you get way down into the enemy lines so you can get towards the artillery. Well, I was killing their guys that were trying to get to the artillery. And all of a sudden I got booted out of the game. I'm like, well, what in the hell just happened? And I found out that I got kicked out of the game for spawn camping. I had no intentions of actually doing this, but I was so far behind enemy lines that I was actually killing them at their spawn node when they were coming around trying to get to the artillery. And that was against their terms of service.
Was that not a server admin that did that though?
Oh, yes. It was a server admin. Okay. So it was a server, but they I guess maybe terms of service is strong on that, right?
Yeah, maybe you should have read them.
Server. Well, yeah. All right. I see what happened here.
But like we all PvP here.
Sustained.
We all PvP here. Like, what is that line? Well, I don't think we've ever even thought about talking about this on the show. This is kind of fun. So where is that line? Like after you
welcome to KOTOR.
Welcome to KOTOR. Where is that line for PvP where it becomes trolling versus killing the other player? Like,
I think it depends on the game, right? Like it really depends on the game. That some games are like Sea of Thieves is another great example that like it is pirating, right? There are people on ships and their whole goal is to go out and sink other players. That's all they want to do is ruin other players' game experience via cannonball, right? And cutlass. That is the whole thing. They're pirates. It's built into the game. And so Sea of Thieves has struggled with this forever, trying to have an experience for people that want to enjoy the game, but don't want to be ganked. And then at the same time, provide a pirate experience for people that want to pirate. So it's incredibly difficult. And I think that as a game, you have to kind of draw your own line. Are you going to be a game that allows this to happen? Or are you going to be a game that says, no, we're not going to allow this to happen? And either way, you have to then enforce it, which is sometimes even more difficult. I think clarity, maybe the answer is clarity. Like just be who you are and let everybody know what the rules are. And then if you break the rules, then you kind of just are able to point at the rules and say, look, like this is what it is. We made this decision.
I like what Tested Weevil says in the chat. If you know it feels bad and it's wrong, then do not do it.
I further like what he said up above, and he said it's only a bannable offense if you get teabagged.
I think it's an interesting line. Like I feel like, okay, so if I'm attacking somebody, whatever, what have you, there's a certain point where I'm like, okay, let you come back, do your thing. I don't know how many that is, but I know there's like this imaginary line, at least in my head. There's an imaginary line like, okay, make your point, but move on kind of thing. Now, the question is also raised, what if the person you are killing is somebody who's been going out of their way to annihilate your guild members, number one. Number two, shatter your economy by constantly over-foraging your area. And number three, trying to do all kinds of other political espionage from another node.
Right.
Then where's that line?
Right. There is no line.
There is no
kill
line.
That person until they quit the game.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And okay, so let's take this a step further because this is kind of fun. This is a very hot topic, I think. My personal line is twice. That's my personal line, right? If I get killed once, good on you. If I get killed twice and you continue to camp me, that's where I go from acceptance to I'm pissed. Now I'm going to be pissed. Like, look, dude, you have proved it twice that you can beat me in battle. And then they continue to sit on you. But I also don't think in a game like Ashes, they have come out and said, we are not going to admin this kind of stuff. This is where you have to have guilds, you have to have alliances, you have to have people that you play with that you can lean on and say, hey, I need a little bit of help. I have this thing going on. That's fully how I expect to play the game. I absolutely believe people are going to be out there and their entire goal in playing this game is to play on red. They're going to get away with whatever they can play with. They're going to get that corruption and they'll just find a spot and log off until that corruption's gone or go to another spot. But I think people are going to kill over and over and over again. Will that in that scenario, one, Do you feel that that an admin should step in on something like that? And two, do you think it's going to drive people away from this game?
I think that that's why they built a corruption system, right? Like that just means they need to tweak the corruption system, because that's the whole point of it, right? A corruption system only exists to prevent people from repeatedly killing innocent people, right? You kill somebody, they don't fight back, they didn't want to be killed, you lose stats, you become a bounty, you all the XYZ that we've talked about forever with the corruption system. You do it again, you lose more stats, your bounty goes up. You do it again, now at this point, like, okay, is the corruption system functioning correctly or not, right? I think that Ashes and Intrepid has come out by the creation of the corruption system and answered that question. And so, you know, like somebody in chat, Galwood said that Steven gave a definition of targeted harassment, but is kind of loose with it. Well, you have to be kind of loose with it, right? Like it's hard to pin down exactly what this looks like, which is exactly what JB and you and me are all struggling with, is how do you define exactly what this is? Because it's unique to the player, right? You, it's twice. Some people, it's 10 times. For other people, they're like, I should be able to kill a player as many times as I damn well please. You know, and so that's I think, the tweaking of a corruption system. They definitely have said that we don't want people to log off because they can't accomplish anything because of griefing. Yeah, it's so subjective.
It is. And on the specific topic of griefing, thank you, Galwood, for posting this link. But he posted a link to what Steven did recently say. And Steven said, when we think about what is griefing, griefing isn't necessarily the realization of risk. Risk is a healthy thing. Risk makes us value reward. Without risk, we would not pursue certain achievements because anybody could achieve them. Risk makes us have a sense of thrill or have some sense of anxiety. I love that anxiety part. And those are all emotional responses that get elicited when risk is present. So risk isn't a bad thing. We like risk, not just in PvP, but in PvE as well. When you can't always predict the environment or encounter you're a part of, risk is something like, I've never seen this boss do that before, or these ads came in at an ill-placed time. There's a trap here that I didn't experience before. There's a lot of elements that risk introduces that keep gameplay less stale, that keep it more dynamic, that introduce environments where the unexpected can occur. That is a good thing. Now the question is, when risk becomes something that doesn't stop other players from impacting your gameplay in a negative and harassing and repetitive manner. The motivation to do that action is less about their personal player or personal advancement and more about impacting your gameplay, because when they elicit the response of anger or rage from the player, totally been there, they feel a sense of accomplishment. That, in my opinion, is what griefing is. It is outside of the expectation of the gameplay behavior that is communicated in the design philosophy. Stephen Sharif. Thanks, Galwood.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
So they have to have some kind of an internal line, and maybe they're going to be taking it on a case-by-case basis when somebody does get reported for something like that. But hopefully, one, the corruption system takes care of much of that. Yeah. And two, I hope they have a pretty healthy support crew, because there's going to be, if it's not, that corruption system is not super effective and gauged just right and tweaked just right, they're going to get a lot of people who complain about stuff like that. And that is when you will lose your PvE players. Intrepid is not stupid. It's a very sharp, very smart company with a very sharp, a very large amount of sharp and smart people working there. So I'm sure this is something that, knowing the risk versus reward is such an integral part of the game, this is going to be something that they are going to have a very, very good plan for internally.
That's a good point. And kind of going on off that about the PvE side of things, and I believe Sonny, you were the one that posed the question, like, how does this affect the PvE crowd? Like, well, the short end is, if it's not balanced right, it's absolutely gonna, and it will innately already, before they ever step into that game, affect the PvE crowd. There'll be PvE players that's not their thing, and they won't play it because of that open theme box style, when you have this kind of combat built into it. They'll automatically not do it. And I don't, it's like, I'm not going to fault them for that. Everyone has their own style. But it's definitely going to be a deterrent for a lot of people. But
yeah, it's the game design is different, right? It's different by design. I think that I would be surprised if we saw like bannable offenses for griefing. I think that that's going to be a function of the corruption system having to take care of that. To circle all the way back to the original KOTOR, I think that the bannable offenses in alpha are going to be very few and far between, short of the obvious like racial slurs and stuff like that. If you're doing that at any stage of development, you're out.
Right.
There's just
bye-bye.
There's no call for it. It's in all the terms and services of every game that we play. It doesn't matter. It's alpha, it's beta, it's full release. You're out.
bye.
The stuff that I think that is like truly bannable on a full release is going to be like, again, I go back to this a lot, but it's going to be your economic type of exploits, your resource exploits, your duplication type of stuff where they know this is a thing and you saw it on YouTube and you took advantage of it because you wanted a quick score that is clearly against the game design. That's going to be the kind of bannable stuff. I guess I would be surprised if we saw any bannable stuff from griefing, just because they have a whole system in place to measure, what that is and what the penalties are for it. So at that point, I would say it's got to just be tweaked.
Sonny's already looking for ways to make counterfeit glint. It's happening.
It looks just like the real stuff.
He's going to start moving counterfeit glint in all these clandestine caravans on Monday nights at 2 a.m.
with soap, and all of a sudden it's glittering. And look at this stuff. It'll fool your average shopkeeper.
Oh, that's hilarious. Gosh, it reminds me of that Dave Chappelle skit. You got any more of that glint?
Oh yeah, that's
Careful.
the first thing I thought of when they were like glint, and you got the guy scratching his neck.
Yeah,
we're gonna get some of that glint. Well, that is KOTOR. I thought that was a particularly good one. I've been sitting on that one for like 2 months, and I'm like, this is a really good question, and it didn't get a lot of heat on there, but I'm like, this one's a good conversation.
I might have to go back and just kind of read through some of that discussion and see, because I love gamers, because gamers, especially gamers that frequent forums, they're really, really good. They come up with some really good stuff. If you can like weed through the trolls, there's some really good points that gamers bring up. So,
and that's kind of where we're at with Reddit with this game right now, right? Because we don't have like flashy, shiny things that you can show off in Reddit. And so it's a lot of theoretical questions. And the people that are on the Ashes are there because they're really curious about the game and game development. So it's getting more interesting as time goes on.
Agreed. I feel like the YouTube space is like that too. It's like the majority of everything it kind of is very theoretical. A lot of assuming kind of answers. It's won't be there for long though with Alpha 2.
Yeah, but I think it's funny because as toxic as YouTube can be as well, like on our particular YouTube page, I'm always just like waiting for the trolls, and they haven't shown up yet. It's been really, really nice. Like there's some really cool discussions that go on with when we release videos and stuff. It's been fantastic.
It has. I had one though that was a very interesting note on one of my Nakua videos. I'll have to check out the comment on that one that surprised the heck out of me, and I did not engage it. But like, they're out there, and as we get closer to release, this is exactly what I was going to kind of talk about. Like, I have never covered a game this far out from a release. When we all got into SWTOR, we were, I don't know, like 6-8 months out tops, right? Like we were on the cusp of this thing. This is a long way from that. There's going to be systems that we see that may not look anything like when the game comes out. And so the people that are in this space right now, it is kind of fascinating to see who's doing YouTube stuff, what the comments are on YouTube, what the other, what the Reddit forums look like. all of that stuff. Like, what is the mindset of a person that is interested in an MMO this far out? It's kind of fascinating. That's been one of the most interesting things about this particular journey for us.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Forces you kind of to really reevaluate what's important to you in MMO and why it is, and dissect all the layers therein. But anyway, well, that was good. I dug that. All right, so roundtable discussion, gentlemen. Guilds and alliances in Ashes of Creation. So for those of you who don't know who are tuning in, a couple things real quick. Number one, we're going to be discussing guilds and alliances. So when it comes to guilds, few things you need to know. Well, number one, when you're going to form a guild, at least right now, this is where we're at. It requires a minimum of around 5 players to form said guild, and involves material and currency costs. Necessitates, I had to think for a minute how to say that.
No, that's a tough one for you.
There's a lot of S's. Anyway,
Why? Why is there so many S's in this word?
This feels obnoxious. So there is a pretty heavy quest line tied to it, and a minimum level requirement for the formation. The guild size capped at 300 members. And there's a few more tidbits there as well. Now, for the alliance, as far as the formation is concerned, guild leaders can create an alliance after a certain stage in guild progression by completing a quest. An alliance leader can invite up to 3 other guilds. Currently, it's subject to change. A guild can be a member of only one alliance. And then finally, alliances have no member cap but are limited to a maximum of 4 guilds.
What do you think, like, you know, in the formation of a guild, because this is the first time that I've ever had a situation to where you will need to complete a quest line, a specific quest line, in order to be eligible. I love the thought of this, and I'm kind of wondering, like, are they vetting you out to see if, like, if you have guild leader skills? Like, maybe, like, what do you think it is? Maybe you have to go out. I
not thought that was a potential avenue for that.
Maybe you have to, like, go out and, like, hunt down and kill a troll or something. So they test your moderation skills. It's a play on words. You get it? Like, not like a troll in the game, but like a troll in your guild.
It's well done. It's well done. We missed that one. I'm sorry. I feel bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. I've never seen that before in a game where you have to complete.
Surgeon General in chat says that New World did. Do you remember that in New World?
No.
I don't remember that in New World, but I didn't make the guild.
I didn't make the guild either. So, God, that was a great time. We didn't have to make the guild.
We didn't have to make a guild.
We just show up.
I'm just jesting. I'm just jesting, folks. Yes, we are absolutely going to.
There's fire behind that smoke.
There will be a LoreForged guild, and we're going to get way into it in this discussion. Trust me.
Yeah, for sure. I like the fact. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, whenever I think of like a guild or a community, and I don't want to. Well, hang on. I want to move away from formation. So that's a really good point about the whole questline bit. I love the fact that they're injecting lore. I'm assuming it'll be some kind of lore experience into getting into a guild. Like, what does that look like? And I love the fact that you're making a process that is now beyond just invite and accept. Now it's something else entirely. Whenever you bring in questline, you're bringing in lore like that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it, right? Like, it seems like something that you could. To me, if you don't have it, it's functionally just a friends list, right? You're just basically, okay, I've got a bunch of friends and I want them to have easier access to what I'm doing, and we can sort of pool resources. When you have a quest line to create a guild, you're implying that this is a bigger thing, that there's more gravitas to it, right? In order to create a guild, you have to go through this thing. You have to, go to these various places and learn about guilds and stuff like that. And then you get to make a guild. Congratulations, as opposed to just like starting a friends list.
Right.
Maybe it's a tutorial about what the guild system entails, like, to where, like, maybe it's just a simple quest like, hey, go talk to this guild emissary at location X, and you go there and you just have to listen to his spiel on guilds, and then maybe you got to go over to The place where the guild hall, where you can purchase a guild hall and find out like all those different things, where those locations are of all these NPCs that will unlock different things for you. Maybe that's what it is, or maybe it's something new and inventive and innovative that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I immediately thought of the Warcraft Guild Hall like thing, right? You're going to get sent to a place and there's going to be a person that needs to walk you through the mechanics of what this new little feature is for the game. If that's the case, then okay, fine. You might as well not even say it's a quest line. You might as well just say it's a tutorial, because that's what that is. If it's a quest line, then now we might be in the territory of something new and inventive that's a little fun.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think they certainly have an opportunity there to expand upon things that other games have never done before in regards to that. Like, imagine if they took that and like tied it into the lore of Vera. How they would do that, it would probably take me some time to think of it, but it would be really, really freaking cool if they did. If they made it just a little more immersive than just go talk to this guy who knows all about guilds, and then you give him your coin, and then he gives you your tabard or your crest or whatever. So
Katie in the chat had an interesting idea here. She said, what if you make a guild, you actually had to complete a multi-part quest with economic, fighting, social, things like that related to the nodes, right?
Yeah, I like that. I'll also, following up with what she said, you roll a die, and depending on what you roll is how difficult it is to make your guild.
That's just the people.
It seems a little punishing.
The difficulty comes with the people.
Yeah, that's true. Don't you worry about the difficulty of managing a guild. That'll built show up.
Oh, it's funny. It has an odd way of showing itself. So anyway, I think of the kind of the whole experience that set the tone for me whenever it came to MMOs was SWTOR. And honestly, from that point on has truly set the course for, seriously, like even my friends, my gaming life, all these things. And it started with going back to, really what I'm talking about is the importance of guilds right now in communities. But going back to a forum post, and it said, Old Republic Dads. And I thought, these guys sound awesome, but I can't join. I'm not a dad. I'm not a. That's the only reason.
I lack the skill set.
I literally did not join because I wasn't a dad. I was married, but I wasn't a dad yet. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold off. So I end up, going through this long, wavy loophole of PvP guilds and weird guilds with weird people. And then Mog Nation opens up. I'm like, oh, this doesn't require me to be a dad. I don't even know how I found Mog Nation, honestly, but I'm like, oh, they need a new logo. I can do that. And I'm just going to march right in there and join. And then I met all of you guys.
Hang on. You joined Mog Nation before you joined Old Republic Dads?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He did. So just a little bit of history, you guys. And this is all talking about community. Trust me. So I was one of the guild leaders of Old Republic Dads. Way back in the day with Star Wars: The Old Republic. And no, man, we had moms. We had tons of people who were flat out single that just, they were so far from having children, but we still had them to play with.
Legally allowed. They were not legally allowed to have children.
But yeah, that really is, that's the way that we ended up meeting Jibs is that Old Republic Dads, once people started peeling off from Star Wars: Old Republic, were like, wait, how do we capture these people? These are our friends. We don't want everybody to ride off in the sunset. We never see them again. So that's when we ended up doing a multi-gaming guild. And that's when we talk about Mog Nation, like that's really where we all came from and where we started cutting our teeth in guild management and community leadership, or guild leadership and community management. But that's just kind of a little piece of our history there. I don't know where I was taking that, so I'm just going to pass the torch off.
I'll take it right back up. I got you, boo.
I totally just had a senior moment.
Now. No, I got you. It's okay.
I had a senior moment.
So fast forward, ended up simply because of a gaming community, a multiplayer online gaming nation was what that stood for. I'll never forget, like, it set the tone for all my MMOs. I met all my friends. I met both of you guys and a laundry list of other people that had I not met Mog Nation, my MMO journey and gameplay would be completely different. Like, community absolutely set the tone for my gameplay for the last decade. Now I find myself hardly ever wanting to play a single player game. I struggle playing a single player game.
Same.
So, okay, let me redirect you on this thing then. What was it about that guild system, JB, and those kind of things that you thought worked well, and what kind of things did not work well for the guilds and the larger community and things like that, that you can relate to suggestions for Ashes or what you'd like to see?
I think the things, are you talking like from like an outside of the game standpoint or in the game standpoint?
I'm saying in the game standpoint. So, for example, the kind of things that you experienced in SWTOR and other gaming experiences afterwards that worked well for you that you'd like to see implemented into Ashes, and the kind of things that just didn't really fly for you that, you know, maybe you'd like Ashes to avoid when it comes to guilds.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things, and kind of from two different games. When it comes to SWTOR, the thing that I loved the most was the guild halls. Going into a guild hall, having a place where you can congregate with your guild in an official space. Because, yeah, you can go out in the world, right? And we did, Sonny. I still have that footage, a private video on my YouTube channel from the Thermoply event when we all got together. It was a gladiator event in Star Wars The Old Republic with Old Republic dads. And we fought.
Thermopylae.
What'd I say?
Oh my God. Thermoply, which is okay, but yeah, it's
Come on,
Thermopylae.
man.
I knew exactly what you're talking about. Thermopylae.
Gosh.
Oh, those damn
It's all right.
syllables.
Anyway, so
I will give the breakdown of Thermopylae. Thermopylae was an event that we made. It was an in-guild event where we had the Thermopylae event for the Spartans was 300 Spartans holding their own against 1 million Persians, right? So we took, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 of our guild mates and decked them all out in all their gear. And then we had everyone else in the guild naked. And they just swarmed into this pit. And it was to see whether or not the 6 or 8 like heavily armored Spartans could hold off swarms of ill-equipped people. And it was the best.
It was fun.
It was so much fun. And you have a video of it. I've watched that video, and you're just running around just slaughtering naked people all over the place.
Yeah,
It's
there's naked.
great.
There's naked people everywhere, swinging their lightsabers, man. Like, it was a good time. So, you know, like, the point being is that, you know, yes, you can go out in the world and meet with your guild, but having a guild hall, a place where you can congregate, truly makes it unique, because then that's your own little space. Like, how was it decorated? How was it set up? How are meetings held there? You know, like, there's just like this whole list of story that is built out of just having this cool place that is your own, and nobody else can take that from you guys. You know, it's like just very special. Another thing that games did very well was World of Warcraft's calendar system. I don't even think I've ever talked about this. I love Warcraft's calendar. Like, I'm always bringing that up. Sonny, I hate our personal calendar, but
That's because it's filled with work assignments.
LoreForged calendar. But I'll be the first to tell you, when it comes to Warcraft, I'm all about that thing. And you can make events for your guild in there, and it's the best. That's an inside joke that only we'll ever get.
Oh,
but
it got real personal there.
yeah, it did. But
Well, let's just tell
so
the story
good.
real quick. Sonny made us have a Google Calendar and has a bunch of dates and stuff that we have to
It
show
is
up. It has
important.
assignments.
It's important.
up
For
until this
LoreForged.
point, Cash and I have always done everything mental. Like, yeah, okay, boom, we'll do this day, whatever. Sunday comes in, we gotta organize this.
Now we have a manager. And we will give him shit about it every chance we get. But
my
honestly,
goodness.
it has made us so much more efficient.
Oh,
really.
absolutely.
So we'll
This is
give you that.
fascinating, though. I have never heard you talk about the Warcraft calendar. I'm curious about this. This was a guild feature in Warcraft?
It's just a game feature, but
It's a game feature.
It can be used for your guild. So when I'm in there, I can make an event that's for my guild that I can send invites out to. All of that within the guild calendar.
So like
I
you
think-
want to set raid times, for example.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that is an absolutely fantastic point to bring up, Jibs. I really do. And it absolutely trumps anything I was going to talk about, because that guild calendar is so valuable to a guild leader to be able to organize things within the game. Now, I know that we have Discord, and if there's any piece of sliced bread that was good for gaming, Discord definitely is it.
Yeah.
Because it is such a wonder. I mean, you guys remember the days of Raid Call and Ventrilo and all these other voice servers that we would, way back in my day, we used Raid Call.
Was
And
it
like,
TeamSpeak?
Hot
TeamSpeak.
Yeah, and all-
Ventrilo.
and all the kids now just look at you
How
with,
do you remember that?
yeah, totally. So, but those things did not have the integrated stuff that Discord has to streamline guilds and communities now. But if Ashes was to have some type of a calendar system, and we should do a live check on this. Somebody, one of these other two people that are in this room with me, maybe as I'm talking, can look up guild calendar or calendar in the game to see if that's even a thing.
Oh, yeah.
But if they had some way for guilds to be able to schedule things on an in-game calendar, that would be absolutely like lights out, amazing, needed feature in some of these games. Because I agree, that feature in all kinds of games, and in Warcraft they do it really, really well. You know, you see in-game events that are coming up. You get to look forward to the Darkmoon Festival, or you get to look forward to time walking events. You know that those things are coming up, and you can talk about them and plan for them. And I just think if something like that was to be in Ashes, it would just be an excellent step in the right direction for building communities.
So oddly enough, I'm not able to see anything on a guild calendar yet. Anything I look up, I see release schedule, I see seasonal events, wishing you a loving year, whatever that is. So like I don't see anything yet, but maybe it's there and I'm just not finding it.
Yeah, calendar events, seasons, event types. I'm not seeing it either, but man, gosh, if we could just get something like that into the game, it'd be fantastic.
You know, going back to the point that you made earlier, though, about the guild hall, like that is just so crucial. But the first thing that I thought of was the freehold, right? The freehold to me is almost a guild hall, especially if you have a family, because a family is kind of a small guild. So if you have a freehold, you want people to come to your freehold. If you have a guild hall, you want people to spend time in the guild hall. Well, you can only spend so much time in a few places, and you can only really call one home. So I wonder if the freehold doesn't kind of take the place of the guild hall. So yeah, it'll be an interesting balance thing. I'm going to move on to something slightly different here, and there was a question here that I just wanted to touch base with, just for the slightest question here. You have in the notes here, the importance of strategic positioning. Due to no fast travel, guilds must strategically position members. And I wonder, do you think that the fact that there is no fast travel will have an effect on guilds?
I think it depends on the activity. Like, and there will be that limited fast travel if they have the scientific node leveled up. But you know, like even with that, like if you're talking like fighting, yes, that's going to absolutely play a major aspect. You know, strategically positioning members. You know, when you talk sending, for instance, caravans. I mean, that's, you know, you're going to need your scouts. You're going to need people way out in front of this caravan, way back behind it, checking out routes. How does this look? Does this look okay? Is there a giant log that screams ambush? You know, like those are the things that you're going to want to know. And so, yeah, you know, when there's very limited fast travel, you know, strategically placing your members, depending on what you're doing, could definitely be important.
I think it'd be huge effect on where you'd put a guild hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think displacement of the guild hall in general is going to be important, because guild halls can be destroyed in a node siege. So, you know, to be able to make it more defendable, you're picking certain places for it. I think that's probably a pretty good idea. But when I think of and this in particular is with not just guilds, but also with guild alliances. You can have up to 4 guilds in an alliance. So if you were to just think of this strategically, if you have defense of your node and you have 4 300-person guilds in an alliance, that is 1,200 people. So when I think of this, I think of granted, you're probably not going to have 1,200 people like defending. Say even if you even had half of that, it's just absolutely insane to think about.
Yes.
The amount of stuff that's going to be going on your screen with 600 people around. But I think of it more from like a military perspective, where you're going to have your frontline fighters, and I don't have military experience, but I have experience fighting in games, so it makes me kind of not an expert. So you're going to have your frontline fighters, you're going to have your range fighters, like Jibs was saying. You're going to have your back line where you have scouts, like maybe watching enemy movements and just making those call outs live on Discord. Say you have a couple of scouts like on each side of the battlefield, and you start to say, hey, shift to the west side, everybody, the enemy shifting to the west side, or there's a unit coming from the west side. You're going to have your healers. You're going to have a lot of coordination that's going to need to take place. And we did see some of this in New World when you took place in the wars, which was pretty darn fun. Because those were, if you got into the right ones, those were incredibly organized. And it was very, very fun to watch, units moving in as a team and units moving out as a team, and watching live people peeling off to protect healers, or you have another unit coming in to protect your healers and you're ranged. Those are the things that I'm pulling out of this information that they talk about. Talking about coordinating positioning and stuff. I think that is really what they're talking about.
Firebrand had an excellent point, though. I mean, you saw that in New World where you had alliances and they kind of, really ran the show. And if you have a server that's 10,000 max and you have 300-person guilds and 4 alliances, that's somewhere around 12 to 15% of an entire server in one alliance. That, if it was well coordinated, could really run a show, Like they could do a lot of work. But again, like that point was in the notes there, that strategic positioning, it all comes down to like the guild management and the styles of it, and like how you're going to actually accomplish this and how effective you are at doing it. You can have 1 million people. You can have 300-person guilds and 4 alliances filled with 300-person guilds of a poorly run guild system, and it's not going to do great. Or you could have 50 Spartans and off they go and they wreck shop.
I think we should mention, though, that the benefits to a smaller guild, or I know we kind of glanced over it, but I think it's a massive issue. The benefits to having a smaller guild versus the benefits to having a larger guild. Chibs?
Well, I don't have that list in front of me, but I will say that I think it's going to come down to what is... so I'm going to backtrack out of the game for a second. Like, what is your community, what is your guild going to be meant to do? I think when it comes to LoreForged, at least, and we've set nothing in stone for what we're doing yet for our guild, but, if we were to take the full max of 300 people, because of the type of community that we're not necessarily a focused community like on a particular aspect, at least right now, of in-game things. Like some people are making mercenary guilds, which I think that is awesome, absolutely awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Other people are making trading guilds. Like with us, it's more about that whole entire communal experience. So for us, I see us more relying on alliances, which is a whole nother conversation entirely. So my point being is this: it comes down to, whenever you have those larger numbers, yes, you're going to basically forsake having all of those wonderful bonuses and benefits that smaller guilds will have. But you'll also be able to do, I believe it's sieges, they say that they can do really well with those larger guilds. Like that's where they really do shine.
Just raw numbers, right? Numbers taking over a castle.
It's a Zerg.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Larger guilds can siege fortresses, but don't have access to power boosting guild ability slots. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? So they're building this game with that as probably what I would call, and you might disagree with me, that seems to be the core concept of the guild implementation in Ashes of Creation. Small guilds get bonuses, large guilds get numbers.
Right.
And you have to balance the two of those things. If you want to be a 50-person guild, you have access to the full tree, and you have the ability to put on some awesome stuff and be, you know, Spartans. If you have the 300-person guild, well, guess what? You're Persians, and so you are just going to overwhelm with raw numbers. It'll be interesting, but that I think is, in my opinion, the defining feature of guilds for Ashes of Creation.
How do you think you're going to stop a larger community from just making a bunch of small guilds under the same banner?
That's a great question. You know,
I'm not going to lie. We've
coordinated group of 50 people max guilds.
Yes, and I'm not going to lie. We have considered this.
Yeah.
We absolutely have considered this, all the way up until I did some research on it and found a quote from Stephen Sharif.
What was it?
Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
Okay, so Stephen says, will the largest guilds segment off into different chapters of their guild that are part of small guilds? Absolutely, that will happen. And the way that we will combat the efficacy of doing that always is through how we design our encounters and our events to incorporate the use case of where smaller guilds and their passive abilities are necessary to overcome certain challenge ratings. Will it always be the most beneficial for larger guilds to do that? No, not always. It depends on what they're encountering, but you absolutely will see some guilds leveraging that for sure.
That's a tough one to legislate.
Yeah.
Yes. Very tough, because people are absolutely going to do that. And like, I'm not going to say that LoreForged isn't going to do that, because we're probably going to go with the larger style guilds, but are we going to separate it out into different units per se? You know, maybe with specializations. Like, what if maybe one will all be crafters?
Well, I mean, think about it. Like for us, think of Lore Seekers back in Elder Scrolls Online. We had 2 full guilds plus an extra Overload guild. I think it's how it was. But I mean, like it was just, we had a waiting guild. We had at least 1 full guild. I mean, it's like when you can do something like that and everyone be under the same banner, it kind of makes sense when you are trying to house a large amount of people.
You had an obscene amount of people.
It was stupid.
That were under that Lord Seeker's banner.
Stupid, dude. There was just so many people and they just kept coming. So it's like, what do? You don't want to turn them away. I mean, from a content creator standpoint, like you don't want to turn people away. You want to, you know, you want the peoples. You want we want them to have a great gaming experience. And so it's like, okay, how do you house that? You know?
Gonna tell you, it's all how you run your community.
Yeah.
It truly is. And like, I hate to segue off to it, but there's a lot that goes into making all of these amazing features that Ashes of Creation is going to have with guilds and alliances. There is a way to make all that work. And like, that's leadership. And I think people underestimate. I think a lot of people underestimate when you're making a guild, unless you're just doing like a guild just so it's, you know, a shell so you can have all your friends in one spot. If you truly want to get the most out of this guild experience and have, like, you know, say you have 300 people in your guild, it's going to take stuff. It's going to take a lot of different things in order to like properly build your community. Do you guys want to get into it, or because that's like a?
I mean, we could. I'll just like very briefly kind of address this, and you're right. You know, Cash and I both are in the fire service, and one of the things in the fire service is that leadership is an educational thing, right? There you can learn about leadership, and this is an industry that's been around for hundreds of years, and so they've tried all sorts of different models inside of it, and some work well in certain situations, and some work well in other situations, and some just don't work. And guilds for me are a fantastic sort of boiler room testing opportunity for some of these things. We've all been in guilds and we've all seen them run in different ways. You could run something democratically where everybody gets an equal vote on things. You could run it more like an empire where, you know, there's a person at the top. A very popular thing that I know that we've done in the past is these sort of guild councils where you have like like 10 of the council elders and they meet and they sort of listen to the people and then they make a decision and they just hand it down on stone tablets for everyone to abide by. And so there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think that one of the hallmarks of MMOs is that it is just easier to have a leadership system where we just tell the people what the rules are. The democratic thing is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but the democratic thing is probably the hardest to pull off in a guild like this. It is far more effective, in my opinion, to have one or a small group of people that just are the identity of the guild and say, this is what the rules are. If you have a problem with the rules, bring it up. We're happy to take a look at it. But we are ultimately going to decide, and if it's not a decision you like, there's going to be another guild for you somewhere else. And it's like that's a whole leadership philosophy right there.
It is that is the classic council manager style of leading things. You have a council who's speaks for the people. They gather the information, they bring it to the manager or managers of said organization, and that's how things are decided upon. I really think, and I'm going to throw this out there live right now on the show, like we could totally cover this, building communities and like some best practices for doing that. We can cover it right now, but we would be on the show for at least another hour. I think this topic in particular, almost like a how-to or experiences that we've had, because I don't claim to have a whole lot of experience in many things, but holy crap, do we have a lot of experience in running communities. And I think that is worth its own show.
I agree.
I think we should table that one.
Yeah. No, yeah. You can't knock this one out in 5 minutes at the end of this show. Right?
No, but what we can do is if there are folks that we can make this beneficial for everybody on a future show to where we can share our experiences, some of our best practices. Number one, if you're interested in creating a community or running a guild within Ashes of Creation or any game. And on the flip side, for the people who just like want to show up to a well-organized thing and play, they can kind of pick up some tips of what to look for in a good guild when you're first showing up. Because there really is a lot of things that you should look for, some certain cues that you would want to see from a guild leadership if you were going to join in order to maximize your experience. So you don't have to guild hop, JB started the show saying that, right? Like he was looking through the forums looking for guilds, right? And so he picked one, and that's the thing, is that you're going to look through these things and you're just going to pick one that looks like something that might fit for you. So think about like the decision-making process that is, and the advertising from the guild itself. You're having to entice somebody to come in and buy into your philosophy. So yeah, I mean, this is a topic that is enormous and deep and fun, and there's all sorts of stuff. This will be a whole show unto itself.
Just think, guys, if I hadn't chose Old Republic dads and met you guys, I probably would have no gray hair. I probably would still have my hair.
So much hair.
I probably could see better, like just better vision. Maybe 2020. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
You'd be Elon Musk. You'd be building Teslas.
Yeah. You would have a freaking head of hair like a nighttime news correspondent, pal.
George Clooney building Teslas.
That's right. Well, on a serious note, so let's bring this community episode back when we so not next week, because like we said, we'll be gone, but the following week. So the December 4th release show, that show we will be on that Monday, we'll be discussing community. So while you all are here, send us, whether it's an email or call us or comment on our YouTube videos, kind of like what Cash was saying, like a place to put what he was saying. So like questions, things that you like, why are you interested in? You want to do this? Like, what's this look like? Like, what are some things to avoid? They're right. Cash is right. If there's anything I feel like we've been around in for a long time, it's definitely community. And so I would love to truthfully, and I'm glad that you guys both said this, you know, just giving this its own episode, because truthfully, like, I feel like easy we could go another hour, probably an hour and a half at least, just talking community. I didn't even realize we're like up to time already. So
I don't think there's anything in our lives, and I'm gonna caveat this by saying mostly your two lives, that has been both the biggest reward and the greatest pain as guild management.
Oh yeah, Guildmaster Online.
I've had so many conversations with both of you at length, at the best of times and the worst of times in guild management, and I really do think that we could make it a very beneficial. I don't want to call it a tutorial, but like a beneficial thing for people who are interested in doing it, and for people who are interested in joining guilds in the game. I really think that we have some good insight there, and we could really make an amazing discussion on it. So
yeah,
tabled.
That'd be fun. I'd love to see truthfully their questions and what they bring. It's probably a lot of stuff we don't even think about, but
yeah.
Anyway, well, hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was LoreForged episode 16. Gentlemen, we're on the back half to 20 now. So anyway, if you enjoy the show, let us know how we're doing. We certainly do appreciate it. If you just take a couple moments, whatever podcast app you are using, if you're listening on through RSS feeds, leave us a review. Tell us what you think, what you like us, what you want to see, maybe us do on the show. If you're on YouTube, which oddly enough, a lot of our audience watches on YouTube. So let us know how we're doing in the comments. You know, is there something like, hey, you should check out this or do this, or tell a friend about the show, like, subscribe, all the fun things. But anyway, we have a 5-star review here from KB451286. Goodness, it's like a clone trooper name.
It's
I love
a lot
it.
of numbers.
It is a lot of numbers. Very formidable.
TK421.
It's TK421 is not on his post. He's leaving iTunes reviews. TK1, why are you not at your post? I'm leaving an iTunes review. Will you leave me alone, for God's sakes?
I'm fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Why are you up my butt all the time?
KB's from the USA and says, I am learning so much about this awesome game. I pre-ordered it in 2019 and sort of forgot about it, and now getting pumped again. I am thinking of upgrading to Alpha 2 package because this podcast is really highlighting so many neat things. Keep it up. KB, thank you so much. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
I love that.
Thank you. And do it. Do it.
Do it.
By the way, if you guys are thinking about getting into Alpha 2, you got to do it quickly, because is it not already?
It's done.
It gone away?
It's gone away.
It's already gone.
Gone away.
Oh, crap.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some prizes on streams and stuff.
There's going to be giveaways.
Like, wow, that date has already come.
If you can build a time machine, you should consider doing that.
Yeah, but I do know that they are they're giving stuff out. Like, they gave a bunch away on their Extra Life stream. Intrepid did. So you should be able to just keep an eye out for some of those giveaways and get a chance.
Yeah, KP's in chat too. That's awesome.
Hey, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can also call us 516-875-1776. Keep your voicemails around a minute or less if you want to play it on the show. And of course, you can email us, LoreForgedHQ@gmail.com. Sunny Ravencourt.
Goldwood says that January 17th is the last day, so it's apparently still open. Also, I'm going to retract that and say that if you could build a time machine, don't go back and order an alpha key, just fast forward until the time the game's actually out. That's a much better idea.
No,
Anyways.
it's a way better. I go back and get like sports scores and bet on them. Come on, Sonny.
Yeah, Cubs win. Cubs win.
What kind of a bookie are you?
Cubs win.
Yeah, what am I talking about? Stop playing games, start betting on horses. Go to the ponies. You can go to the website, visit LoreForged.com to find links to all of our Ashes of Creation content. Content, not comments. Okay, where are we here? YouTube. Find all of the stuff on YouTube. I hardly even have to say that because, like JB said, everybody is watching us on YouTube and even consuming the podcast on YouTube.
Well,
We're
not
old men.
everybody.
We didn't see that coming either. So this is kind of new territory for us. But we do put an awful lot of effort into our YouTube thing, and it is a lot of fun for us. Twitch, you're watching on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ. Also, I do a lot of streaming during the week, having fun under the Ashes of Creation banner, just kind of playing whatever games, and we talk Ashes. It's a good time. And finally, Patreon. You can get all of our content early and much, much more, including the State of the Owl, which is our sort of after dark behind the scenes, just have some fun episode. And that is at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ cash.
State of the Owl, the show where we use the F word.
The only thing, it's the only difference. Just constantly, an hour straight.
Maybe the heathen of this tricycle does.
You're pretty much you're just leading the way on that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of. My count is up way further than you guys. Anyway, folks, if you want to join us,
scoreboard.
We really should, and we should drop a quarter every single time I say the F word.
Curse jar. Love it.
Curse jar. Folks, if you're interested in joining our community, we have a really cool Discord community that's brewing, and it's not just for players, it's for content creators. You don't have to be a part of our guild, you can be a part of other guilds. We literally have a dwarf guild. We have members of a dwarf guild in our community, and they are in character all the time. I'll say it a billion more times. We absolutely freaking love it. It's just hilarious. So anyway, join our Discord community. We do have a couple new members that I want to shout out this week: Nuclear Tango and Friendly Zombie. I think they're both in chat right now. Thank you. I definitely know Friendly Zombie is. Thank you for showing up and hanging out with us. It really does mean a lot to us to get that interaction with our community members as we continue to build this Discord that is wide open. But we will be turning this into our Ashes of Creation guild in the future, and we have some really kick-ass ideas. So, yeah, join us there. And you can find that on if you go to our website at our link tree is at LoreForged.com. Anyway, follow us on Twitter. Jibs is at JibsIRL. I am at Cash Quests. Sunny is at U of Coruscant. And don't forget to follow the show at LoreForged HQ. Before I pass this off, couple little notes here. We are still fundraising for Extra Life Friends until the end of the year, and we do still have some funds being raised here. They keep trickling in, so it's pretty cool. And then Sunny recently did an episode of The Golden Feather, so that one is going to be coming out in the near future, and we look forward to seeing him on with the folks over there. I think it's going to be another fun show to watch and listen to. Sunny's just fun to have around. So
it's in a tavern. Like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like, it's great.
It's true.
Yep. Get drunk and fall off a bar stool.
Right.
It's about the worst that can happen.
Yeah, toss you out into the alley.
Oh, yes. Goodness. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful week. And don't forget, we will see you back here on December 4th. We're taking next week off. Send us your questions on community. Fun comments, maybe experiences you've had. We want to chat about it on the next LoreForged live recording. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you're in the U.S. and you celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful time with your family and safe travels, adventurers.